Okay, so um, welcome back. Interesting day today. It's a little emotional today. And I just what I want to do is I think it's important. Again, I don't know, but I think it's important for all of you. I think I want to get maybe the elephant in the room out of the way. Um, but this is hard for me to talk about. Um, so I'm just gonna jump right into it and give it a try. So I think I finally need to admit something. I don't know. I don't know that I'll ever be able to give you a fuck. I can't even get started. A rational explanation for some of what happened, particularly during last fall and in the gambling that ruined my life. Um, I've I've dug as deep as I can go. And I there comes a point where we have to move forward, and I'm trying to do that. Um, but the psychological state that I found myself in, um, I hope and I need my loved ones to understand just how broken I truly was. Um, and it didn't just start. I I know how irrational I was. There it was. I know how irresponsible it was. I know what it cost. Believe me, I know. I live with that knowledge every day. But I don't know what I was doing. I do know I remember how I felt. It's taking me a little while to figure it out. But I know maybe it doesn't make sense to you guys, but when I say I dedicated my life to that company and to my career, I gave it everything. I learned engineering and accounting, and I learned things that a lot of it I'll never use again. Maybe I will. I don't know. But the accumulation of the appropriate word isn't I was hurt. It isn't I was angry. It isn't I was scared. It isn't I was ashamed. It isn't I was exhausted. And it isn't I was confused. I felt discarded. Not just from my career, but from my marriage, from my family, from my world. I felt exile. I felt isolation. You know, none of my friends reached out to me when I was at Homewood. Nobody said, "Hey man, I heard, I'm thinking about you." And don't take this wrong. My family didn't come visit me. And I'm not saying you should have or want. I'm not saying you didn't want to or anything like that. What I'm trying to explain is I didn't feel like I belonged. I felt as though the things I had spent my life believing gave me value were slowly disappearing one after another. Relationships changed, my family changed, my career changed, my sense of belonging disappeared, my confidence disappeared, the future I thought I was building was disappearing. Nothing was I can still feel it clearly. And I think unfortunately, as I think I've indicated in some of my even Instagram posts and talks and whatever, that I was so fragile. I was so fragile. I was just learning how to feel or express my feelings because I had suppressed them for so long. I I think I just started saying fuck it. I want to destroy my life, or I don't love my children, I don't love staff, I don't care about my family, I want to throw away my future. I think it was something sadder and darker than that. Because it was like, if none of this matters anymore, then what am I protecting? If I don't matter, then why does any of this matter? And if everything I've spent my life trying to build can disappear, then fuck it. And I feel these feelings, they just flow through me, right? Like, it's just, I've got to get this stuff out. I've got to say it to you guys. I would love to say it to you in person, but this is easy. And writing it just makes me profoundly sad. Saying it is even harder. Because this wasn't some philosophy I consciously adopted, it was despair. I didn't have any allies. I didn't feel like I did. And I don't want you to feel bad. This is not condemnation, okay? There were times where the same problems, there are things that I can explain to you about how that whole online world works and other worlds, but it's irrelevant, and it's relevant. Relevant is, for example, I'll just give you an example. I mean, I have screenshots and video recordings, screen recordings of like winning tens of thousands of dollars, and you can't take that money out. They throw wrenches at you, and then so you get frustrated. And anyways, that's never gonna be a problem anymore. It's not a anyways. There were times where I thought I was solving a problem. I could convince myself that there was a way back through this. Keep going, keep working the problem, play longer, recover what was lost, bridge that financial gap, get to the other side, just get to this. I don't even know what this was. I really don't. And, you know, what I had said yesterday was, or whatever it was, I've always been someone who works extraordinarily hard at a problem, especially if I believe there's an answer, or I know that there's an answer on the other side. Man, it's a weapon. None of this happens 5 years ago. None of this happens 5 years ago, 4 years ago, whenever, before the online gambling started, because I'm not going to go into a facility. Those dangers are not there. There's safeguards, and there's other things in place. There aren't, and there weren't. And I've thought about advocating for that world, but I don't have the energy right now, and I don't have I don't have it in me yet. Unless someone asked me, I would, but I can't pick that torch up on my own. I think it really just comes down to self-destruction. And that's difficult for me to admit because I don't believe I wanted to destroy myself. But I think I reached a place where I was so hurt. And every day, the fewer interactions I had with my world, protecting myself, protecting my future, stopped feeling as important as it should have. And that's fucking embarrassing to say. What the fuck? The other day I was at my doctor and she's pregnant. And I just broke down crying. It doesn't make any sense. So I think what I was saying was go ahead, hurt me some more. What difference does it make now? And Steph, I am so sorry. And I know you know that, but you didn't deserve this. And you didn't deserve this from the way that we were treated and didn't feel accepted by my world. And I'm sorry for that. And my world owes you an apology too. And I don't mean that like directly from my family, metaphorically. I hate what happened. I hate what it cost me. I hate what it cost you. I hate the instability that it created, and I hate the dishonesty that grew around it. I hate the shame, and I hate knowing that the money could... There are days when looking back, it's almost unbearable. But I'm trying to learn something else now. Remorse is not the same thing as continuing to punish yourself. Or myself. I can spend the rest of my life screaming at that version of myself. What the fuck were you thinking? Or I can try to understand the pain much more, the much more painful reality. Maybe he wasn't thinking that I was capable. Maybe he wasn't thinking the way I am capable of thinking today. Maybe he was profoundly hurt. Maybe he was angry. Maybe he was ashamed. Maybe he felt abandoned and discarded. Maybe he lost his perspective. And maybe he was desperately trying to solve problems while simultaneously losing his ability to care what happened to himself. And I know I did. I stopped caring. And I'm not blaming others, but there is a cause and effect in this. And I can't tell you how impossible the dynamic between Kristen and I is and still is. I'm trying. I sent, it's hard. It's really hard. And I think all of you know me enough to know that I'm pretty easy to get along with. Or I can be. And I always have been. Can I be stubborn? Yeah, of course. But I know what happened. I know what the truth is. I know that dynamic, my inability to be ineffective in my kids' lives, to feel like it didn't matter what I said as a parent, as a father, as the figure that I know myself to be and expect my kids to follow. I had zero support from her. And that's a reality and that's a truth. And it's not a condemnation of her. It is what it is. But what happened the feeling of discarded, the feeling I didn't have any support. Those are real. Those were real for me, and those led and contributed significantly to my feelings. And not just her. I experienced that same sort of emotional control or abuse at work in my professional career. I know it. It's what happened. So we can move on from that. None of this repairs the damage. It wasn't okay. But that man was still a human being. And he is fighting really hard right now to be himself and to show you. And not show up, because I've been showing up. I always have. But showing up was really hard for me, and is still. The anxiety, the fear of showing up into environments that I was born to be in. Sporting venues, arenas, hockey, ball diamonds, whatever. I mean, those were my home. And I was terrified to go in them. I felt alone. I felt isolated. I was so scared. And I'm sorry that I didn't say anything. I'm sorry that I didn't know how to communicate it. It's, you know, we've hit that enough. Okay? Some things that I experience, they don't exist inside me as neat thoughts or memories, right? So they arrive all at once. A smell can do it. They can do it for all of us. Last night I pulled up my comforter and I'm snuggling in, and boom, instantly Steph's candles, the smells, it just consumes me, and it transcends me into these different places. It's amazing. Our apartment, a time in my life, intimacy. One sensation can open 10 doors. And I don't know if it does this for you guys. And I'm genuinely curious about that kind of stuff. And not because I know some of you want me to go to those meetings or whatever, but a line in a movie can connect simultaneously to my career, my family, my relationships. You know, they can just transport me into moments and times. And you need to understand that someone suffering from PTSD, those flashbacks, those things that happen, they're just exacerbated. And it makes things worse. It truly does. Because you feel like you can't move on. You just can't move on from the horrors of the feelings of feeling discarded and all those things. So I was far more hurt than I understood. I became far more lost than anyone, including me, realized. And I did things in that state that I will regret for the rest of my life. And I'm sorry for that. All I can do is tell you the truth now. And even during the periods when my behavior made it look like I didn't care about anything, somewhere underneath all that pain was still this guy. It's the reason I'm still here. I just couldn't find him. So, I know, Medi, these are probably annoying you, and good. But I appreciate you letting me share. I have a few more things that I just want to make sure that I get off my chest and we'll move on. But I love you all, and I just hope you can appreciate how hard I really am trying to pull our worlds out of this darkness that I put us in.